All right. Do we need to do a roll call for attendance, Mr. Zalmazak? How do you want to run this?
Well, that's traditionally what we've done. So I'll call the roll from the podium. Gotzik, Schaefer, Gray, Nusma,
Here.
Judice, Suffredin,
Here.
Kelly, Rogers,
Here.
Vic.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum, and I think we need to do a vote to allow Councilmember Davis to participate remotely. And Lisa, sorry, I see you there as well.
I will make a motion to allow Councilmember Davis and Committee Member Deacon to participate remotely.
I'll second.
All right. Moved and seconded. We got to do a roll call on that one, too.
We'll do a roll again. Vic, Rogers,
Aye.
Kelly, Suffredin,
Aye.
Judice,
Aye.
Nusma, Gray, Schaefer, Gotzik. What about the online voters? Do we need?
They
They
don't,
don't vote for themselves.
but they can now on the things going forward. All right. So that brings us to public comment. Mr. Passett, I think, is the only one. Oh, we have minutes first? All right. Let's do that. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the Economic Development Committee meeting minutes from December 10th, 2025.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? We can do that one on a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Before we move to approve, there was an error. Was that corrected, Paul? I was not in attendance
Yeah,
at the December meeting.
For the record, the system that we use to track minutes identified as member Deacon as in attendance, and she wasn't. I'm working on fixing that. That's a system error, and I'm aware that she was not.
Okay. So
Thank you.
With that
a
modification,
motion with that modification. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we're at public comment. Mr. Passett, I believe is,
and Chair Suffredin, we do have one online comment that I'll read after the people present.
okay.
Public comment.
All right. Mr. Passett? You've got 3 minutes. I don't want to mess with the timer based on what we just went down with, so honor system.
No worries, no worries. It says 5 here. I'm not going to take.
yeah.
I'm not even going to take close to that.
Okay.
So don't worry about it. So as most people know, I'm Eric Passett, from owner of North Shore Apartments and Condos, and I'm also a resident of the 4th Ward in Evanston. And I wanted to come here months ago and just caught up with the holidays and not being able to. But I've really had some concerns about the amount of vacancies with the retail space, and I don't manage or any of the retail space here in Evanston. I strictly do residential. But I'm, as a concerned citizen, more like it. And I don't see it getting, I know we've gotten some new restaurants and new stores that opened up, but for every new one that opens up, it seems like another one closes. Like now Pete's Coffee is going to close. Who knows what's going to happen with Firehouse Grill? They're, I guess, in some type of, they're trying to reorganize. But my point is that I don't think it's really getting a lot livelier in downtown Evanston. I think it's actually kind of the opposite. It's kind of a sad thing compared to what it was when I moved here 30 years ago, or over 30 years ago. And, I think when they built like the Amway part, the Amway high-rise on 700 block of Chicago, instead of putting in a whole bunch of retail, they did a lot of kind of live workspaces. And I think that should be, and there's, as you know, a lot of, I wouldn't say, a lot of retail places that could be converted in that respects. And, because I don't think, we can try to attract as many people as we can, but the reality is it's a dwindling business, retail. It's not, we'll get some, but we'll never be able to fill what we have. It's almost an impossible journey. So, I was hoping we could, find a way to rethink a lot, like they did at Amway. Every single one of their storefronts is full. Whereas if you go to the Albion, that opened up, I'd say 10 years ago now, or close to 10 years ago.
Ballpark, yeah.
Okay. Both retail spaces are vacant, and one of them has never been filled. And I think also what could help us is, I know Mayor Biss, enacted once a month we have free parking or whatever it is after 5 PM or reduced or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was, once a month. I think that was a while ago, but I don't know how long it stayed in place. I can't tell you how many times it would help at restaurants at night after 5 PM to either make parking free or less. You know, I went to go shop for a pair of shoes the other day. By the time I got done with shopping for a pair of shoes at that athletic place on Dempster and then going to the iStore, it was close to $2. That doesn't really attract a lot of people to come to Evanston when you have to pay for parking. Then if you don't pay for the parking, you get a ticket. Now, I would opt to pay for the parking, but I think we could actually attract more people if we, and maybe after 5 PM, when a lot of the restaurants do most of their business, you know, make the parking less. You know, and the only thing else I'll bring up that I have mentioned before to Luke and the city manager is during the summertime, if you go, you know, especially on a weekend, almost every single trash can is full, you know, of trash naturally. But then they're not emptied for 2 or 3 days. And I can, you know, and not just the parks, but I mean, in downtown Evanston on a weekend, when it's busy, they're all full.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you go to a lot of the parks, and I know this isn't that, there's not one recycling, you know, and I think that would help us also. So,
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Zalmazak, you have online?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sufferton. We have one online public comment from Seal Hensher, who lives on Oak Avenue in downtown, regarding the pop-up consultant. I'm going to read this verbatim as they have requested. I participated in numerous of their gleaning meetings, have not yet been implemented, so my curiosity was awakened after reading the agenda item to hire another consultant for pop-up marketing. Importantly, should there also be review of current job descriptions for all economic development staff, plus the downtown Evanston staff, whose combined responsibilities probably effectively include marketing, pop-ups, and leasing? Should proven financial data impact to a business and city be a required element of the consultant background information? That's it.
All right. That brings public comment to a close, which brings us into our items for consideration. First one is the committee alternative meeting dates. Is there a motion?
Just a second here, let me find the number. Mr. Chair, I would move item 4A, the Economic Development Committee alternative meeting dates.
All right.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. There are 3 options presented. I'll just kick it off by saying I think that this room is an important place for us to meet. I think ideally this is where government happens. With that said, my preference would be for us to figure out how to schedule meetings for this room. If anybody has any other comments or considerations, Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This room would be great. I don't think it has to be this room. I enjoyed sitting around the table at the old Civic Center. Happy to meet here if it works out. I cannot do option 1, or let me just restate that. I prefer very strongly not to do option 1 because I have my ward meeting regularly scheduled for the first Tuesday of the month. So I'd be cool with either option 2 or option 3.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yeah, I think looking at the options, option 3 would probably be my preference. We moved finance and budget off of Tuesday because of the fact that we often fell after a council meeting. So that was problematic. I think it's important to keep us kind of centralized here instead of having to do things. The other thing is that when we have met in other rooms in this building, it's very odd to have the public kind of surrounding us. So when they're speaking, we have to keep turning around and looking over our shoulders to see who's talking and what's going on. So if we can arrange the rooms in this building better, maybe, I don't have a problem with us not being in this room, but it's important for the setup.
Mr. Zalmazak.
Thank you, sir. We can set this room up to have a conference room table set in this area or just beyond it. I don't want to like overstate how easy this is. I mean, there's a flat screen TV over there. We can surround. So yes, if we
I'm
don't want
saying
to use the
if-
dais, we can use conference
Right.
tables, however we want to do it.
Right.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. Any of those options are fine for me, but I would agree that given this location at 909 Davis, this is really the only place for us to be. At the old Civic Center, we had rooms that were already equipped with, easily connected Zoom, virtual attendance, as well as easy to access the room. So given our situation in this building, I agree. I think this is really the only place for us to meet. Thank you.
Okay, so it seems like option 3 is the preference. Does anybody have anything they want to add? Kelly, Mac, I don't want to put you on the spot, but in terms of people coming, this room is good compared to having to go through. I mean, I know we had to have doors propped open before. I mean, I think we've talked about how you want to have, people want to come and,
Oh gosh, this is so weird. I do agree with what Alderman Rogers just said about feeling more part of the conversation, even though my role right now is to be a listener and not like stare at the back of your heads like it was in December, which I did not mind at all either, but I would prefer this.
okay.
Thank you.
So, unless anybody has any objection to option 3, I guess that's kind of where we landed. I don't know if this requires a formal affirmative vote. Mr. Zalmazak?
It does because we made it an item of consideration. So we will, it's also part of the process of just establishing when the meeting dates are going to be. So we're changing the time and we're making this the location until further notice. So you want me to call the roll?
Yes, let's do.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
1 second.
I'll second, yeah.
All right.
We'll start online with Member Deacon.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Nusma,
Aye.
Judice, Suffredin,
Aye.
Kelly, Rogers.
All right. So
passes.
That passes. That brings us to retail pop-up incubator strategy and implementation plan. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I will move item B, a discussion of the retail pop-up incubator strategy and implementation plan.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Zalmazak.
Thank you. So Ms. Sajovic is here this evening if the committee desires to see a brief presentation. I want to point out just a couple of highlights. One, we're using funds that we normally had in the past used for the entrepreneurship support program. Instead of doing small one-off $2,000 or $3,000 grants, we're consolidating that funding with an additional $50,000 that was in the Economic Development Fund to basically bring Claire on, or Ms. Sajovic, to run a pop-up program in a vacant space in downtown. And I hate to use this overword phrase, but to provide wraparound like incubator services for some of the businesses that we might pursue to locate in here. But this is a business attraction and a kind of a business growth initiative. That's the high level description of how this will work. If you went to the Ensemble Market over the holidays, it was in Bookman's Alley. It's the same kind of concept, and I hate calling her Ms. Sajovic, but Claire Sajovic is the person that put that together, and I would argue it had a successful experience. So I want to stop there and give the committee an opportunity to ask questions.
Councilmember Kelly.
So I did attend it this winter over the holiday break, and it was amazing. I was really blown away by how active and vibrant and packed it was. And I will say Claire I was really impressed at your ability to curate, the space and bring in businesses that would attract people. So, it absolutely brought vibrancy, which is what Mr. Pissett spoke to. I think that's what we're looking to do, not just fill spaces anymore with a lot of inactive storefronts, in terms of other services, schools, churches, medical facilities. But this really did activate the downtown, brought people there just for that. So, in terms of how we want to fund it, but I can attest to that it was absolutely successful. And not only did Claire really, like I say, curate, bring in businesses that would attract people there. She also created a space that was fun to be in, with a nice mixture of folks also selling, coffee and refreshments that made it a little more festive also. So that's all for now.
Any further discussion? Any of our colleagues online? Kelly Mack? No, I'm just kidding. Do you want to make a brief presentation, or I feel like we're good to vote on this? Oh, Councilmember Newsbaum.
I was going to request a brief presentation if there's one in the can ready to go. Yeah, I think that would be helpful for folks in the room and other folks who might be playing catch up. Yes, please.
Can everyone hear me? Whoa, nice.
Sorry, Catherine, do you have a question? You got your light on. Or do you want to, is that on purpose?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've store owners in my district who really believe in Claire, and I really believe in them. And I wasn't at the ensemble market, but the kind of hushed, reverent tones with which they speak about Claire make me very intrigued about this. So I'm interested.
Thank you.
No pressure.
Oh, I could do the click. Let's see, can I get full screen, or is this full screen? All right. I'm gonna hide this. Okay. Also try to hide this. Oh God, okay. So I'm Claire. It's very nice to meet everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm an urban development and creative strategist, and I moved to Evanston about 1.5 years ago, but I actually grew up about an hour from here, so I'm very familiar with this region, the business landscape, at least before I moved here, and now very familiar that I'm here. I'm really excited to share more about my plan. I would say it's a strategy and also the exact plan to implement a pop-up and incubation program. So not only consulting on what a plan would be, but actually see it through and see it into the future beyond this pilot program. So the goal is to reduce commercial vacancy, strengthen community-rooted businesses who I am now good friends with, and revitalize retail corridors while making a low-risk entry point for these businesses to share their work with the community. I believe all of you have seen my work samples, but because it was in the packet, but I can just run through them fairly quickly, high level, just for everyone in the room. So, okay, so I'm going to start with intro, case studies, proposal, comparative programs, and then any questions that result. This is me. I just gave the rundown, but in addition to my background here, working in Evanston and starting Ensemble, I got my MBA from Cornell and founded another pop-up market company in Arizona for about 5 years, and was a development project manager for various adaptive reuse real estate projects in Massachusetts. This is Ensemble. We already spoke about it, so I'm going to try to keep this really fast. Basically, it was a 2-day highly curated market. We had 1,100 people come through, even with snow on Sunday. The businesses made collectively $20,000 in direct sales over the weekend. So you can do the math on the sales tax, but it's pretty good. And on average, that meant each business made about $1,500 in sales, which is pretty high for a market of this kind. The challenge was there was the empty Bookman's Alley property. I networked and I spoke with the owner. He wanted to do something interesting. He was willing to consider a revenue share. And I decided that I had 2 months and let's do it. Let's see what happens. So I pulled it together in 2 months and the reception was very kind. We got about 4 press hits. I partnered with various sponsors locally, some named, some unnamed, very generous for a first event. And the consensus was it was really fun. I was energized. Everyone was having a good time. There were no issues. In the past, I organized markets that were like 50 vendors. So this was only 16. I guess that meant that everyone was just like really collaborative. There was time for them to network. And since the event, people have collaborated on pop-ups and done events together, met up, done collaborations already. So this is only after one event that was 2 days in Evanston. So you can imagine the ripple effects if this was a more long-term plan or entity. So I'll just go through here. Had very glowing reviews from the building owner. I know how to work with real estate developers and property owners. I've been doing it for about 10 years. And so I know how to work both the small business angle and also the property owner incentive angle. So that is something that not many people have, and I'd be happy to bring that to this project. And then I'll just kind of go through past projects. Again, this isn't in Evanston, so I can go more quickly. But to give you an idea of the breadth of work I've done, I did a month-long coffee pop-up in North Adams, Massachusetts, in a former bank, and they served it through the window of the ATM, which was my secret goal of the project. And then when the developer actually said we could do that, I was like, yes. So it was about a 200 square foot space. So as you can see, you don't need that much space to create vibrancy in a community. Every little bit counts. And this was a previously unactivated side of the street in downtown North Adams, which is where Mass MoCA, the largest contemporary art museum in the world or in the country, exists. So it was really successful, proved the concept for third wave coffee in a smaller town. And the coffee tenant actually 2.85x to their revenue expectations. And again, this was a revenue sharing model. So I worked on the development team and we made that much more than we expected to. Again, this was vacant and it was a way to test a concept ahead of permanent tenancy. So that's 1 month compared to the 2-day market. Cultivate Tucson was a company I co-founded in Arizona. This was 7 markets over 5 years. These were 1-day markets. This was probably the largest impact on the community I have on record, where we were able to inject over $500,000 to the local economy. And on top of that, donated over $50,000 to nonprofits because 10% was from every sale was donated. So another example, another model. Over 200 businesses participated, and on one day we had over 5,000 people come. So over time, this can scale. And again, this is, a 1-day event, but to give you an illustration of the different types of programs that can be pulled together. And then perhaps most relevant to the landscape assessment component of my proposal today is an incubator retention study I did for Southworks, which is a project in Ithaca, New York, with the developer Shift Capital. They were looking to see which companies, what the needs were for companies to remain in Ithaca, New York, because it suffers from brain drain, even though Cornell is there. Startups usually leave to go to New York, Boston, et cetera. So that's less flashy, but it showcases the study aspect of the proposal that I'd be able to execute. So here we are. This is the proposal at hand. Again, you've probably reviewed this, but I would say the main goal is to transform vacant and underutilized commercial spaces into economic growth engines in primarily downtown Evanston. As we've noted from the comments today and just from walking around, There are a lot of vacancies. Again, nothing that's too much out of step with national trends, but I believe a strategic plan will help alleviate a lot of those vast swaths of empty sidewalk and commercial vacancies. What's the way I pulled together this plan was to have 3 phases, starting with assessment to see what the landscape is for small business owners and property owners. Again, this is different than a typical study in that these are the target demographics and the partners we want to work with for this program. So while we're polling the community, we're also gathering participants for incubation and pop-ups and hosting duties on the property owner side. The second phase is a pop-up and incubator strategy, which is tailored based on the results we receive from the surveys. And the third is the actual implementation of the strategy, whether that takes the form of an incubator or a pop-up program or something we have not even come up with yet. It'll be determined by the reception we get and the data we collect from the businesses and the property owners. The goal is to reduce commercial vacancy in whatever way best fits the needs of this community. So I can go into detail of the proposal, but
Yeah, Eric, can I jump in just since we got the screen set up that way? Does any of our online colleagues have any questions or comments? And if anybody here does, feel free to speak up, but we can't see them anymore, and I want to make sure that they're included if they want to be. And if not, that's
Alderman
cool.
Sufferton, I do have a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
So I appreciate the presentation and understand sort of the need. I think we all are all working towards bringing more investment and vitality to all of our commercial corridors. I'm wondering, perhaps, and you don't have to answer it right now, but a question for staff is bringing in this partner a matter of bandwidth or expertise for our economic development team? So that's one question. I'm also cognizant that part of the scope here is doing survey work, and I feel like there was a lot of survey work done as a part of Evanston Thrives, and so I want to make sure that we would be using dollars in a way that makes the most sense, right? And leveraging our SSA partners. I'm cognizant of the comment that was made by, someone shared by the public, that we're leveraging all of the resources that we have. Because if we say yes to this, I feel like we're saying no to other things. I've had conversations, for example, where communities partner with other types of folks like brokers to help sort of consider which sites need to be prepared in speaking with, tenants, perhaps not pop-ups or small businesses, perhaps more of a national level tenancy. And I think we need both in our downtown. But so those are just some of the initial questions that I have.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start the answer. So we're asking for an investment of $100,000, half of which is coming from a program that was designed to support small business. It was the Entrepreneurship Support Fund. So from a funding perspective, it's not a big leap to move in this direction. And it's not. It is partially a bandwidth issue. What Claire will be doing is literally identifying a space. And by the way, I think you're right. We've talked about this as staff as we built this. We've done a ton of surveying. We know what the marketplace holds. We know where the vacancies are. We know who the landlords are. That aspect, I think, will go really quickly. And I don't think we'll have. I think we'll be able to shift resources in a different direction. I think Claire's probably going to be surprised by how much we actually know, although we've talked about it a lot. But I do think there's a little bit of work that she needs to do. But we're talking about literally setting up the shop, acquiring furnishings, negotiating the leases, and then curating and identifying the retailers that will pop up, and then going on. What I imagine is going onto Etsy, going into church basements. Finding the candle maker that really wants to get out from that space and into a viable space where they can sell their goods in downtown. And I think it's going to be a downtown operation, by the way. So there's a lot of aspects to this, and I think it's a full-time job. And I think the proposal that Claire puts forward is a full-time job, and we don't have somebody on the staff that can give up 40 plus hours a week for it. If that's a direction the city council and the city manager would like to go, we could assign a staff person to do that. There's just other things that won't be able to accomplish. So that, and I don't know if you would add anything else to that, Claire, or Katie. Does that cover it?
I have one.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I reviewed the Thrives plan pretty thoroughly, and that was an excellent survey, I believe, of the customers and the community and the neighborhoods. What I'm proposing is to reach out directly to property owners and business owners who would participate, because that was a gap I saw in the current reporting. Again, with what I know since I've been here, and with my relationships based on doing ensemble and speaking with business owners, I think there is a disconnect with current options available to them. And so I hope to kind of bridge that gap. That's just my quick response.
The other thing I wanted to mention, that this is not the core of our business attraction strategy. It's one aspect. So that what I think I really want to highlight, what I think is really important, is that we're talking about those small entrepreneurs that are not going to be found by brokers. They're living here in the community. They're on Etsy. They're doing all the online things. This gets them that next step up, and it's interesting product. It's just look at what Claire did during the holidays for the ensemble market. It's a marketplace like that. We then have to have a longer conversation as committee. How are we going to do business attraction with the broker community, the national chains, et cetera? I'll stop there.
Okay. Several lights. I think we have Councilmember Kelly, Ms. Gotzik, and Councilmember Newsma. We'll go in that order.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I think this all sounds great. I think what we want to see are the pop-ups and the more of these markets. Studies, we've had lots of them. You did an amazing job without a program in place, and I'm sure you made next to nothing doing it. So I understand I want to fund that so you can do more of those. I guess I'd like to know, and one of the things I'd like too is that, especially for downtown, it is about that vibrancy and attracting people, for downtown, I think it's really important. And there were some Chicago businesses there as well, which I thought was great, because there were certain businesses from Chicago that were really dynamite and fun to have and attracted people. So I would, hope we would, at least for downtown anyway, for, not tie Claire's hands in terms of what kind of businesses, but as much as bringing businesses in that will bring people to downtown. So I guess what I'd like to know is, what can we expect, practically speaking? Like, can we expect a couple of pop-ups this year for this? I understand there's going to be studies, and a lot of studies have been done, but I think that's what I want to know, is that we'll see at least what, as a result, what will we see? Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. We actually had 9 Chicago businesses and 7 Evanston, which was interesting, but the best performing business was an Evanston-based business. So cool. Just a little stat. So practically speaking, after doing a brief survey, then the implementations plan part would be like 4 weeks, give or take. Survey, maybe 15 weeks, simultaneously run both at the same time. And practically, this would result in either a potential 3-month pilot incubator program, October, November, December, with follow-up and plans for long-term sustainability, or potentially a pop-up program with longer-term, 3 to 6 month leases potentially, so not long in the grand scheme of things. It will really depend on what the data shows us. If people are saying, hey, I would go downtown if there was 1 pop-up a month in X category, then maybe we would shift course, obviously, to go towards what business owners and what property owners are comfortable with. So those are some practical applications. Either it could be like a 3-month or longer incubator. It could be a 3-month to 6-month temporary lease program that we've seen in Westtown. in Chicago, or the Vibrant or Vacant to Vibrant program in San Francisco. Downtown New York just launched a up to 3-month rent-free pop-up program. So, I mean, there's a lot to choose from, and the strategy will be determined by what people say is missing or what they believe they would need as a business owner and what property owners are comfortable with.
Great, thank you. So that would be this year in 2026, we'd see.
This week,
some
this,
sort of-
this year. Yeah, not this week, this year.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Gotzik, then Councilmember Newsome, and Councilmember Rogers.
I'm wondering what, if any, benefits will accrue to the other business districts?
To the other business districts.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
will there be overspill? Will we see any business attraction as a result of this?
Well, I think it's like a blueprint for if what we can do in downtown that could then be applied to other business districts. Then we already have this proven path how to collect the data we need, create the program we need. Once the program is built, I could see it easily, one, creating spillover effects to districts that are within walking or even biking or public transportation distance from downtown. And two, then we would know how to implement in other districts. Again, getting data first, it's not a one size fits all, but we would have the framework to repeat this in other neighborhoods.
Would it be extra dollars to repeat in other neighborhoods?
Well, I would say it would be incrementally less. It would just be however the longevity and like the succession plan for this pilot program pans out, then I would say it would be less just because of our knowledge base. But
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Katie Bowden, Economic Development Coordinator. I just want to add one thing to your question on how I see this in some of our conversations and how it affects the other districts, is this could be kind of a good stepping stone for a business who's not sure that they're ready for brick and mortar or they're testing a new market. So maybe they're coming from somewhere else and they just want to see if Evanston works, or maybe they're kind of ready to make that leap and this helps. But I think, we've also talked a lot about other wraparound services that we could provide in terms of education, city support, helping with that. And also part of that would be, not everyone's going to move into their own brick and mortar right after this, right? But some of them might. And I think that's where we can look at spaces in other districts as well. They might not all stay in downtown after leaving a pop-up or the incubator, but they might stay in Evanston. And then we could help them with those location services throughout all the different districts.
Newsome, then Rogers, and Mr. Vick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This certainly sounds intriguing, and one of the points that has become clear to me and to this committee is that there is a desire for small, unique, boutique mom-and-pop shops. And so it sounds like what we're talking about here is really very closely aligned with that. So I think we're on the right track here. I'm curious as to what brought you here. Did we go looking for you, or did you find us and say, hey, I happen to live here and I've got this good idea? Like, to what do we owe the pleasure?
I was introduced to Paul and Katie.
Okay, good.
And so I came with the proposal, I came with the plan.
It's great to be able to take advantage of local talent when we have it. I just want to make sure when it comes to our procurement obligations, this would be a single source contract. Is that going to be okay?
Thank you for the question, and we'll address that for the city council memo if this passes this evening. I believe it passes the standard for single source. It's highly specialized. What she delivered during the holidays is important. Was successful, and we've come to the committee in the past with proposals. We know it's similar level of service at a cost that was significantly less. I'm not really familiar with anybody else that's delivered this. We have had Evanston Made do pop-ups and things, but this isn't an art-focused kind of pop-up. This is really more about how to develop entrepreneurship and hopefully spread that through the community. But we think, short answer for the chairman's sanity is we think we can get it through council, through the purchasing requirements for sole source.
Okay. And, since the preliminary, or at least the primary, maybe just preliminary focus would be downtown, I want to make sure that downtown Evanston is part of this conversation, and not to put you on the spot, Andy, but like to hear your thoughts here about how we might be able to take advantage of this.
Your light's on after Mr. Rogers. Why don't you address it? Unless that's all you got? Okay. Matt, why don't you go, then Mr. Vig?
I'll actually let him go first.
All right.
That's kind of the sequitur.
I would say that I am, slip your, sorry,
I'm extremely supportive of this. I think this is exactly what we need to try in downtown Evanston. I think Claire comes with the right track record. I applaud economic development for bringing this to the table in terms of actually moving from conversation to execution and implementation with a solid pilot program. Our office is prepared to support in any way we can. And I think this is a good thing, and I'd like to encourage the committee to give it a try.
Mr. Rogers?
Thank you. I'm excited by this. The one thing I do kind of want, I do share some of the concerns expressed as not necessarily a representative of a business district, but the council member of a business district, to try to bring this out beyond downtown as well. I also would like to know sort of what is the plan, because pop-ups and incubators are kind of two different things, and they kind of serve different purposes and result in different long-term results, hopefully. So how are we balancing those two things? Are we leaning into one more than the other for the pilot, or is it really we're going to try both during that period of time? How are we setting that up?
I can answer. Yeah. I can start the answer, and then if Katie, if you want to add anything. So basically, we see this happening in a few different possible ways. Based on the data, perhaps it'll show that there's a demand for an incubator, and we would start with an incubator pilot program for 3 months. And then in the meantime, would create a 3 to 6 month pop-up rotational program. So we have a place to funnel incubator participants after they graduate or they finish a 3-month term of an incubator. So then we can place people in potentially subsidized pop-up locations for longer periods of time with fewer vendors to see if that's a fit, or there's single business rentals for pop-ups, as in the Westtown example. Now, if people come back to us, if business owners say, hey, I don't know if an incubator is the right fit for me, but I would be interested in a short-term lease, we're partnering with the city and downtown Evanston, then that's the direction the program could take. And maybe there is an incubator still, but from that 3 to 6 month short-term lease pop-up program, the eventual goal would be placement in 2-3 year lease or more permanent brick and mortar. Or people decide, hey, I tried my concept. It's not really a fit for this market, but maybe I'll try somewhere else. Maybe I'll try a different neighborhood. Maybe I'll go to the next town and come back to Evanston when I think I can make it work here. But at least we're testing a few different modes and different durations and extremes for brick and mortar so they can sort of pressure test their business model. So it's kind of both. I think I answered the question, but it could happen sequentially. It could happen simultaneously. It just depends on what the data shows us.
Because I'm very interested in the incubator aspect, because I think that's where somewhere like Howard Street benefits from this type of a program. We have successful businesses there that were kind of like, hey, we don't know what to do. And the city provided rent, we purchased buildings and rented those buildings out, and then people bought those buildings from us as a successful story. And so I'm very interested in moving and exploring that model, because whereas pop-ups are fun and exciting, pop-ups necessarily are not a long-term strategy for establishing a strong economic base. They're fun to do. They can juice things here and there, but for a long-term strategy, the incubators are where I'm really interested in seeing what we can do. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, Ms. Schaefer, is that your light there? All right.
Pop-ups have been proven to be really successful in a lot of communities, and I agree with Councilmember Rogers that I think incubators are, really helpful. I think when I'm looking at the big picture of so many conversations that we've had, I know we're trying to fill up empty retail spaces in the downtown. So when I think about this program, I think about, is this really achieving the goal, and what would be the timeline for that? Because we have this incubator program, and I think the challenge after that is if we do go to place people, I think the success of a lot of districts is that we do have these smaller retail spaces and they fill up quickly, right? Because, people are looking, it's easier to get into a smaller space. I think the challenge with the downtown is that we have these ginormous spaces. So is there a plan after this incubator program to, white box some of these spaces into smaller, trial bases for these pop-ups? I'm just, I'm trying to imagine it in my brain, and I'm having a little bit of difficulty with it. And, I do think it's a strategy for the downtown, but I'm trying to understand how it quickly fills up these larger spaces that we are trying to fill up.
Thank you. That's a great question. Yeah, so the answer is, they can take the direction that makes sense for the available spaces and the landlords that are willing to participate in this program. Ideally, the city would lease and then sublease to smaller areas of a larger space if that's what's available and in a pop-up program. So yeah, to your point, there are a lot of big spaces. Now, let's say the incubator happens. There are 3 to 4 people that want to expand into a longer-term pop-up. Maybe there's a bigger space that can be subdivided into 3. That's one large space filled. So it's one space. Maybe there are 12 participants that want to expand into spaces downtown in a more temporary basis. And there are a mix of sizes of spaces that we can then fill. An incubator is the first step. And it's hard to know if a business would feel comfortable expanding to a large space after trying an incubator with like 12 to 15 participants, because it's a different game, but with the wraparound services and the program set up, I do think we'll be able to find spaces or subdivide spaces that would work. Phil, does that answer the question partially?
Yeah, it does. I think, our challenges, that we've discussed is, I used to be a commercial property broker, so I understand the challenge with allocated for businesses, and it is a big jump to go from, you're in this incubator space. Is that something that we would consider ahead of time when we, consider the businesses that might go into the incubator, the viability of them moving into a large space? Or I'm just trying to figure it out. But thank you so much for answering that part of the question.
I believe we would consider. Part of the questionnaires and surveys will be, what are your aspirations as a business owner? Is this something you're testing? Is your long-term goal to have a brick and mortar space? Katie, do you I have to cough.
I would also say that's part of the survey that she'll do with the property owners, and that landscape assessment is understanding which spaces are viable for that, what landlords are open to, and having like a roadmap for us. We know what we can put where and who's open to what different options, and I think that will help us a lot. Like I said, too, because the goal is eventually that people, some of these businesses will move into their own spaces or a shared space or something more permanent if the market works.
Thank you.
Councilmember Davis, is that your virtual hand?
Yes. Yep, my hand is virtually up. I don't understand why we wouldn't do an RFP or RFQ for this. I'm not exactly sure why we're doing single source, and it makes me a little uncomfortable for us to be doing so when I don't see any urgency nor any pre-existing relationship with this, with the person who's like doing the proposal. So I'm going to, what I wanted to mention is that I think that the first time this came across like my tables when we got the agenda, maybe like last week, I don't feel comfortable pushing forward a single source to city council without a little bit more deliberation, with at least one more ECDC meeting. Alternatively, like if we are up for this, I still do think that we might want to instead put in I don't know what you want to say, referral recommendation for an RFP or RFQ, whichever one it would be. And so if, Paul, if you want to give an explanation as to why we're not doing an RFP, RFQ, and why we would do a single source.
Sure, and I'll, if it passes committee today or if it's recommended to move forward, I'll put in more detail. I believe that based on our past experience, first of all, we can do an RFP, not a problem. Well, we can issue an RFP for a incubator pop-up, for a person to run a pop-up incubator program, and we'll go through that process. This was an opportunistic opportunity. That's a terrible way to say it, but and we, considering the fact that I believe there is urgency, and that is on a daily basis, I'm hearing calls from people, landlords, et cetera, that they want their spaces filled. So this is a way to do that. We've had experience in the past with other presentations or proposals for this type of service. Based on our experience, this is, in terms of price point, is way lower than those. But as always, we'll do as directed by the council. We believe that this would align with the procurement purchasing manual for sole source. But again,
Okay, and when you say this is a lower price point, do you have specific RFPs or RFQs that are comparable in scope that would illustrate this is a good deal?
okay, so we have the one experience with in the past with 37 Oaks when we attempted to do this. We did not issue an RFP.
Okay, and would it be possible for you to send to the committee members the proposal for 37 Oaks and how much that was?
Yeah, we could do that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, it's that it is on the it's already publicly posted, but I will definitely direct it to all of you. And I want to make it clear that if the committee wants us to issue an RFP, if they think it's worthy to do a pop-up program with a supportive incubator program, direct us to issue an RFP to do that. It'll take another 90 days, and then we have to do interviews and bring it to committee and debate it, and then take it to council. So and I'm not saying this to deter I'm just trying to give you a timeline. It will not launch this year. We'll be talking about 2027 program because that's just the way it has to play out. There has to be a timeline for the RFP. We have to evaluate it. We have to go through the process of approving it, and then we have to launch it. Find a space, launch it, get the program going. So, if that's a direction, I just want it to be clear that that's a 2027 implementation. The other thing I do want to stress is that I think Claire Sajovic had mentioned several times the word pilot. We're trying this out. It's somewhat low risk. I mean, I know there's costs, but it's costs that we had already kind of committed to entrepreneurship and the Economic Development Fund. But please give us direction and we'll follow it. And we'll either come to council in 2 weeks or we'll come to committee next month.
Okay, is that all, Councilmember Davis, or do you have additional comments or questions?
Yeah, I had one more question. So for 37 Oaks, I'm looking at it now. This did go forward. We did fund it and go through with it, or we did not?
We did not. I don't think it passed committee. It was on the beginning of the previous term, so maybe 5 years ago. But it didn't. I don't believe it made it past committee. Did it? I don't think it did.
Do you recall why?
I believe it. Well, there were two reasons. One, I think people balked at the cost, and we could look through the minutes. But I recall Councilmember Burns thought he had an alternative that he was going to pursue and bring forward. It never materialized.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Assuming that all of these lights are current,
I do have a second question.
why don't we, Councilmember Kelly, Councilmember Newsmo, followed by Mr. Vick, and then Ms. Gotzik.
Thanks. So, as the council member who routinely pushes back on single source and sole source, I do support this, and because this whole kind of program and plan emerged because of the creativity, enthusiasm, chutzpah to go ahead and do this, and probably, like I say, I was there, hadn't met Claire before I walked into that event this holiday season, and so it is coming because of the success and someone who had the wherewithal to just go out and do something like that. So I feel, it's a sure bet. We've seen it. And, when we do when I push back on sole source and single source, it's because we want to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck for our taxpayers. And again, having witnessed this, seen the evidence of its success, I feel very comfortable with this as a single source, right? Single source. I always get mixed up between single and sole as a source. And one question with regard to like subsidizing. I know this time you did a cost share or with the property owner. So this would include the cost for the spaces for the pop-ups.
Yes. This
Okay.
is, it's inclusive of the production, my work, and the space.
Okay.
At market rent in downtown Evanston.
So whatever it would cost to have whatever number of pop-ups we're going to have this year, this 100,000 would go towards
yes.
the programming and the whatever amount we need to subsidize. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Nusva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what does this look like from the landlord's perspective? I'm realizing now that I'm not realizing it now, but I'm observing now that we have no landlords or commercial property folks on this committee. That's maybe something to keep in mind moving forward. But what's the value proposition for the landlord? Have you had preliminary conversations with landlords that have expressed interest, and what kind of risks might there be that we won't be able to find a landlord willing to participate?
Yes, I have had preliminary conversations with at least one landlord where I did the market. And he's amenable to revenue share. What we're proposing here is either a revenue share or a city subsidized rent, so where the city would pay the rent. And from my understanding, talking to many landlords, that's number one priority is just to get their rent and activate their space and create community. But one major thing that they would be on board with is just having a chance to experiment with filling their space and having that guaranteed rent.
And that rent would come out of the money that this committee
Correct.
would be recommending to council that we approve. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Vick?
I wanted to respond to a couple things. I think Angela raised a good point about the size of the spaces in downtown, but I would also say that we do have smaller spaces in downtown that are currently unoccupied that are potential candidates for this. And I also believe, as was said before, that part of the way this works, and I had some experience with this in my previous job, is that people have this experience, they realize they have a business that's viable, and then they go out and look for another place to give it a real try, if you will. And that doesn't have to be in downtown. That can be in any of the other business districts. So what is being incubated, if you will, in downtown is going to have a benefit, I believe, throughout the city of Evanston based on what those individual entrepreneurs feel is the best location for them. With regard to the sole source, I side with Claire on this for sure. Forgive me, Councilmember Davis, but we have an excellent candidate here who has a proven track record, comes with a recommendation from our Economic Development Department, and at a certain point, we have to trust staff, as long as it is permissible legally, trust staff that we have empowered to lead our economic development activities to make a recommendation. And if it's a good recommendation, I think we need to pursue that. And in terms of the timing, to Paul's point, we need this now. We don't need to go through, for such a low dollar amount item, to go through a huge process. This is a pilot program. Let's give it a try with budgeted dollars that already exist and see where it takes us. So let's not jeopardize a really exciting possibility by getting it mired in bureaucracy. Let's let our economic development team do their work.
Ms. Katzik.
So a couple of things. I just want to say that as a strategy for filling space, I think pop-ups are the future. I really just do. It is hard for lenders to go in on 5-year leases. It's hard for landlords to anymore think that anybody's a good bet. Like it's rough out there. And so pop-ups to me are a good strategy for attracting people into space. And then I have a couple other comments. Number one, might be unpopular. I think chains are actually not, I think they're viable for this project too. I mean, if you look at a neighborhood like Andersonville or Bucktown, they're like 80-20 and they have 20% chains. I know that my district, if you take the grocery stores and the banks out, we've got room to grow on the chain side, and sometimes the chain is a nice anchor. I wouldn't want it to be at the expense of any single small business, and I would fight hard against that, but I think it's a viable as a pilot. And then I will also, with my member of the Chamber Board of Directors hat on, say that I hope the wraparound services that you're talking about will not overshadow the Doing Business in Evanston program that is happening at, okay.
Our goal is to partner with existing programs and make best use of what's already available to small businesses and provide a hub so businesses can access existing programs, whether through the city, the chamber, Northwestern.
Cheryl? And then, I'm sorry, and Perry, I see your hand too. So, sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
I know very little about pop-ups, and what I do know, it seems that they were centered around holidays. You know, like I think of the Chris Crandall Market in downtown Chicago as being a pop-up on steroids. My question for you is, are pop-ups themed, and if so, for example, you'd say we're going to do this pop-up on whatever product or item for a certain amount of time, and then we're going to switch to a different pop-up. How does that work, and how will the Evanston community even know about it? I mean, are we going to advertise this is what pop-ups we're going to have across the calendar year? I'm just looking for the meat and potato of it. Okay.
No, definitely, yeah. Yeah, pop-ups can be themed. They can be multi-vendor. The market over the holidays was multi-vendor. A few more established businesses. So that's like a Christmas market model, which you're familiar with. A pop-up program that I look to is in Westtown in Chicago. They have 3 to 6 month rotations, and it's an open book, basically. They have a gallery pop-up, and maybe the gallery extends if it's successful. They had like a concept boutique that was there for 6 months that just closed, I believe. And so that's multi-vendor, but it's one business taking over the space. I believe a vintage shop who I know I'm friends with the owner. She did one of those pop-up spaces where it was her store and only her store for 3 months. So they can take a variety of forms, but it's an excellent way to test different types of businesses in a location to see what the community is seeking, if that type of establishment would do well in that location, that block, but also generally in Evanston. And the purpose is to rotate through to kind of give the community options to share what they're seeking with their dollars.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, I have another question for Paul. So I see that this money would be coming from the business district improvements. Do we have any other anticipated expenses coming from this fund? It can be anticipated, contemplated, anything we're thinking of spending this money on instead.
We had this, we didn't have an opportunity as a committee to review the planned budget for the Economic Development Fund. Everything is lumped into the Business District Fund. And this is, actually, this one's actually is from Entrepreneurship Fund. But the Finance Department lumped it in under the Business District Improvement Fund. So that Business District Improvement Fund has, this year, I wish I could show you like the breakdown of it. I don't have it in a presentable way at the moment, but it includes business district, holiday events, what used to be called the Great Merchant Grant. There's funding for that within the business district fund, but it's all mapped out. And that's also something that I can put in the council packet so you have clarity. I can also post it on the committee website in response. I have it. I just need to be able to present it to you.
Okay. All right. Great. Yeah, it would be great if that was added.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, is there any further discussion, or are we ready to vote?
So just to formalize it, I'll make the unless Paul wants to talk first.
Let me do the roll.
I was going to make the motion that this council recommends to, this committee recommends to council execution of a contract as outlined in the memo.
Second.
May I?
Please.
I will. Rogers? Aye. Kelly?
Aye.
Suffredin?
Aye.
Judice? Aye. Nusma?
Aye.
Deacon?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
All right. So that, we'll move on to council. That brings us to items for discussion. Nothing there. Communication. We've seen the business open and close report and the economic development activity report. You have anything to add there?
Sorry.
Go for it.
We do have in our report the 2025 summary of business openings and closings, and I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge what Mr. Passett said during public comment, that things downtown seem like they're empty and we do have work to do. Nonetheless, if we look at these numbers, over the past year, there were 39 business openings, non-home-based businesses. We had 39 openings. I'm sorry, that's on the first page. We had a total of 43 openings of non-home-based businesses and 10 closings. So we've got 4 times more business openings than closings. Like, that's a good sign. We're heading in the right direction.
That's it? That's what you got?
I also want to say
adjourn?
one more thing, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. This list also included 39 home-based businesses. And I think those are the prime candidates for the program we just recommended approval of. We've got home-based businesses in town that are ripe for the picking for this incubator and pop-up projects. So that's all. Thank you.
And that doesn't even count all the church basement candle makers. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? All right. Any objections? We are adjourned.